Call the August 8th, 2023 meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals for Cascade Charter Township to order. Like to record the attendance that all members are present today. Glad to see you all here. Like to ask everybody to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I have a motion to approve the current agenda.
So moved.
Second. Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Approved. Article 4, approve the minutes from the June 13th, 2023 meeting. We have a motion.
Motion to approve.
Support. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. Article 5, we'd like to acknowledge our visitors and those wishing to speak on non-agenda items. And your speech is limited to 5 minutes. Would anybody like to come up and talk about a non-agenda item? None noted. Anybody on, okay. Well, let's get right into the meat of it. Article 6, case number 23-3777. Addison.
Get some plans up here for visual. Okay, we have Mr. Goring here this evening. He is applying for a variance at 6389 Burton Street. He's looking to add a carriage house to his property. At the rear, the owner's been restoring this 1876 historical home and would like to build a carriage house in the design that matches the home. The proposed building is 816 square feet, a 24 by 34 carriage house. The height to the peak is 22 feet and to the midpoint would be 17 feet, which would require a setback of 40 feet from both the rear and side yards. His parcel is a corner lot, so he does have 2 front yards. He is in compliance with his front yard setback because he's behind the line of the home off of Cascade. Is it Cascade Point or Cascade Woods? Point. Thank you. The proposed setbacks for the west side is 30 feet. And originally he had his rear yard set to 25 feet. I've just spoken with Mr. Goring following some public comment, and he is able to comply with the rear yard setback and would like to change that to a 40-foot setback from the rear property line, so that he's now just requesting a variance for that west side property line. When we looked at the findings of fact for his property to consider if this would be a good candidate for a variance, he does have a really long and narrow parcel, which would make it hard for him to meet setbacks. He did alter his plans through conversation with me to get it into the minimum variance he could be requesting, and then even further today with that rear yard setback. So looking at that, he also has screening along his front yard to the east side on his property of large pine trees that would be blocking the view from residents to the east of the carriage house. And the adjacent neighbors did submit a public comment today that I provided for you all, which I would like to add that he does have a shipping container on his property that was granted a variance for temporary storage, but we would like today to set a deadline of when we'd like to see that removed. We could refer to the applicant for a timeline that could work, but also we don't want to put too long of a timeline on that, as it does cause nuisance to neighbors. The historical nature of the building, the lot shape, and the setbacks, considering all of these, I would recommend it would be approved today as long as he is following the conditions of our standards for outdoor lighting. He's not using that carriage house for a business or for living space, and that we set that deadline for removal of the shipping container.
Madison, are you also adding that the west side setback will be 40 feet, just for clarification?
Yes, we can add that condition as well. North side.
North side.
Is it north side?
Yeah.
The rear yard.
The north side will meet the 40-foot, and the west side would need the variance then of 10 feet.
Okay.
Because he's presenting a 30-foot setback there.
Addison,
Yes.
in our prior variances for the shipping container, if I'm not mistaken, we did set a window of time, did we not?
Yes, so I believe he is past that time, which is why he's seeking to build the
So this is
current
the
carriage house.
second, so you're saying the second variance approval of the storage container, we're past that time again?
Is it the second approval?
Yes.
Okay, I wasn't aware. I thought he received one
I'm
variance.
sure we've done, I'm almost positive we've done this.
There's
once,
two.
And we did the second time.
The second time, I believe it was May of 2021, and it was supposed to be 6 months, so it's been over 2 years.
Is that what you're showing?
I'm sure.
Yes, May 2021. I recently became aware of that variance, so my apologies. I could have enforced sooner.
Okay, any other questions for Madison? Thank you. Would the person seeking the variance please step up, Sir Goring? Your name and address, please.
Harold Gorian, 6389 Burton. Good old city of Grand Rapids. Thank you, everybody, for being patient. Been a project. Am I supposed to say something?
Well, we have some questions for you.
Oh, okay, very good.
Like to ask you some questions. Now, as I understand, it's going to be a storage building that you're adding.
Yeah, a
In your-
garage. It's a car garage. The
Okay.
house unfortunately has zero storage in it. And it's, 176 years old, so it's been a challenge. So I got to put the stuff someplace. But that's what the garage is for.
So it was built in what, 1870?
It's 18 in the late 1800s.
It was actually down in the city of Grand Rapids originally, right?
It was moved up to its current location, and then in the early, I think the 1900s, they added the second. And of course, my plan was just to paint it, green from purple and blue, and the last little deal was I just wanted to insulate it. Well, we ended up replacing half the house because of the structure was so poor. It was just wore out. The nails were rusted. We're not quite done with that exterior yet. So it's been frustrating because getting people to work on it, pulling them off their job and waiting for product and COVID, and it's been a 3-year ordeal. But I started in just before I turned 70, and I hope I'll get it finished just before I turn 80, which is 6 months.
Major project. Yeah.
So, Mr. Goring, do you think, we have two things, obviously, removal of the shed and obviously the removal of the temporary container.
Certainly.
Do you think that can be done in 6 months? Is that acceptable?
The plan is to build a garage, and we have to start bringing in product so that once we get people to actually build the garage, which we have lined up, we need to get the material stored so that they can just move forward and get it done.
Right, but so we're trying to just put a timeline on this.
I think 6 months would be comfortable, yeah.
So within 6 months of,
Everything,
if it's approved, then within 6 months, you can tell us and the neighbors, I'll have the shed removed, I'll have the temporary container moved. And
exactly,
now we put a timeline.
because we still have things for the house in the container. It's full of wood. And, bathtubs, vanities for the upstairs, which we haven't been able to get to because structurally we had to beef up the basement to support what we had to deal with. So, moving on into the house, finishing that up, then we'll start moving material into the container. That's what we're using it for, is lumber storage.
Mhm.
And, go ahead.
I guess the reason I was asking that earlier is because this is the second extension of the variance for the container. So with that being granted back in May of 2021, obviously we're well past that. Are you asking to extend it even further for materials?
That's correct. Yeah.
I guess my question is, and you alluded to it, is 6 more months going to do it? Or are we going to be from this date, 6 months saying, okay, it's still there
I hope
and
not.
we still have it? Well, I mean, that was the hope
2 years ago.
2 years ago.
Well, it's
So you said-
materials. We haven't been able to get materials. And every time, it's just like right now, we're redoing the floors, kitchen, and well, the fellow that did the floors screwed them up. So that's another month delay that we can't finish some other parts of the house. So these delays have been not on my part, but on getting product and people to work on the house. It's a small project and you have to pull an electrician off of a big job and then they're gonna, it's just been a pain. And then we've had problems getting hinges for closet doors. We've had Anderson windows that we had to wait for. We're starting to order windows for the garage now, because who knows how long that's going to take. So it's been a material delay. So I think the economy is better, supplies are better. I don't see any reason in the world why 6 months this thing shouldn't be wrapped up. I certainly hope so.
Right. I would agree. Being in commercial construction, we've seen those delays, but those delays have been well into the past. We're past that moment of saying
Exactly.
shortages of materials, that they're there. They are sourceable now.
Yeah.
So I'm reluctant to say, let's throw it against the wall again and see if we can go 6 more months and 6 more months. I mean, I guess I want to know that we have an assurance if this board so moves forward that, we've asked for a $500 bond security deposit. Has anyone at this point pointed out to the gentleman that you're past the 6 months and, has staff reacted to that expiration?
We
of
hadn't yet,
variance?
no, and that's fully on me. This when I was the only staff person. I'll admit this got buried among a lot of
Okay.
other things. Madison's been a huge help with that and has been on top of enforcement issues. So she wasn't aware of this until very recently. So,
Okay.
um,
My personal reluctance is to keep adding a 6 month when, we're 2 years is significant.
I think you can see what I've been doing.
Yeah.
It isn't that we haven't been doing anything.
Right.
I mean, we've had people in there every day almost, but then we'll have to wait a month for somebody to come in and do it was the plumber, the electrician, and then they had to come back and all.
And I
Okay.
completely understand that and I sympathize with you.
Okay.
My concern is that we're going away from a interior renovation of an existing building to a brand new building going up.
Exactly.
And the question I would have for concern is this new construction going to start and finish, or is it going to start and delay and delay and delay?
I don't know why it would delay, actually. Can't foresee any reason.
Right.
Do
Do you have a contractor on board now or?
we're waiting for this meeting so we can do the design.
Okay.
And then once we have the design, now we want to look at the lot placement. And yeah, we have a carpenter or contractor lined up. I mean, my builders have been pretty good about trying to stay ahead of the curve here a little bit. So we got that lined up. I don't know how long it takes to build a garage, but shouldn't take that long. Then we have weather conditions coming up. So, you know, when we were putting the new roof on, we had a huge delay there because it rained all the time. I have a head tarp over the roof. I had 15 buckets catching water. Well, that went on for 3 weeks. More rain than we anticipated. So it's, we're doing the best we can. And I want it over. I mean, I'm kind of done with this project.
Yeah.
I had a chance to stop by today and talk to Mike.
Oh, very good. Excellent.
And it was quite apparent that the more he opened up, the more problems he found,
Exactly.
especially on the flooring system
Oh,
and
my.
the roof trusses.
Oh, I tell you what, all I wanted to do is I got the container to build a garage and I figured, well, let's insulate the roof. When we opened it up and looked at the roof, if we would have insulated, the roof would have collapsed because it wouldn't be able to handle the snow load. Because what happened was they sistered the roof, what do you call them, rafters? They weren't long enough. It was used lumber. It was black and drying up and cracking. And it had been spliced once before, and there were some supports in there. I said, it's junk. It's got to go. Okay, so now when they built the house, the stairway entering the basement come from the outside. So they cut the joists off. The joists ran this way, so they cut them off and then ran them the other way. So that was sagging. I mean, really? So here we are, but we're getting there. But I'm glad you stopped by. You can see what we've been up to.
Yeah, yeah. Any other questions for Mr. Maureen? Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Thank you for being patient.
Motion. Second. Okay, motion to go to public hearing. It's been seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We are now open for a public hearing. Please limit your comments to no more than 5 minutes. And give us your name and your address.
Hello, my name is Will Alberts, 6201 Cascade Point. Harold, I like you. I like what you've done, but the shipping container is an issue. You've pissed off a couple neighbors, the Meadows in particular, and we have an ongoing battle between who can be the most obnoxious, I feel like, personally. And it doesn't bother me. I mean, should there be a shipping container there? Absolutely not. When people are building things, they have their builders and contractors bring them. I don't see any other shipping containers in the city when they're building. So this is kind of a little odd to me. But quite frankly, it's caused a disruptance between the neighbors, and I don't like that. So I want Harold to build this garage, but the shipping container's got to go.
Thank you. Anybody else? Name and address, please.
Matt Burrows, 6380 Cascade Point, directly behind Harold. So I appreciate that the 40-foot variance is going to stay, because that was a big issue. My other concern is if the second variance was granted in May of 2021, and so this is basically, he's now asking for a third variance. And unfortunately, you've had a lot of issues with the house, but we've had to suffer. Every time we come in our development, that row of pine trees that he talks about, it runs maybe halfway up his backyard. So it does not cover the shipping container and will not completely cover that carriage house or garage. And so my issue is this: it's almost like dealing with a kid sometimes. If you guys have kids and you tell them, hey, if you do that again, you're going to get grounded. Or I'm going to give you, a week to turn your grade around in class. And if you don't, this is going to happen. After the second variance in May of 2021, he was given 6 months. We are over 2 years. And to me, when he's being asked about what's the plan, when's it going to start? It's, well, I don't know. I got to build it. Kate's an architect. my fiance is an architect. The COVID backup delays on stuff, like you mentioned, Mr. Mead, has been over for a while. Products are there. Like Will mentioned, when other things are being built, you don't see big shipping containers with stuff. When I added on a third stall, which I got approved, followed the setbacks and everything like that, I didn't have a shipping container on my property, let alone for over 2 years. And so what I'm hoping is this, is that something firm is put into place where a deadline is, this will be started by this date. The shipping container will be moved. And if it's not, what are the repercussions? Because my fear is he's blown by a year and a half or 2 years and nothing's happened. So what's going to keep it? We're going to be back here in 6 months or a year now too. Will it be started? I don't know, because it doesn't sound like he has any firm plans. So that's my concern, because we've had to look at it not only every day we drive into our development, but it's in our backyard. So, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Anybody online?
While we're in public hearing, I just wanted to ask Mr. Goring one other question. Mr. Goring, if you've already got a shed there, if you've already got a shed there, and you know the complaints are obvious, it's the shipping container that's an issue. Why can't you put things in the shed? Is it because of the size?
It's got a lawn care equipment in it.
Okay, then what are you putting in the shipping container right now?
Wood. It's material for the house, and you can certainly come and take a look.
But that's for the house. What about for the carriage house or the house?
While we're wrapping up the things on the house. Well, you were out there, I think, today. So we're finishing up the house. Well, once we know what the design is of the garage, then we can start drawing that up and start putting supplies in to collect that. Sure, builders can bring stuff out, but the problem is this is done on an individual basis. You know, I don't have a construction company coming in and build it. You know, Mike's been working on it because it's been a complicated.
The neighbor asked a good question, which is what are the repercussions? I mean, you said, yeah, I can do this in 6 months. And this time, you know, we want to put a fence around it because it has been 2 years and we've extended it twice already. You said you're comfortable making it within 6 months.
Yeah, I don't.
But to make sure this happens, what if we were to increase, and we could, Brian and Madison, we can increase the bond requirement, can't we?
Yep.
So we could request a $5,000 bond as opposed to $500 as an incentive to be done. And if it's not done within that 6 month period, then we take action. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
No, you're talking about the shipping container, right?
There's two things: the shipping container, but the shed will also have to be removed.
Oh, of course, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because the shed happens to be where the garage is going to sit.
Right.
So it has to move.
Right.
So there's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
But
we're talking about the shipping container.
We're talking about the shipping container. And the shipping container is full of stuff for the house.
Right.
And now we're wrapping that up and moving on to the garage.
Right. So and that's what we're talking about, the 6 months.
Yeah, that's right.
So to tag on to that question, then, if you know you're going to need storage and it continues to be a long delayed storage scenario, why are you not renting a storage unit?
Well, when you need a 2x4, are you going to drive to Caledonia?
If need be, yes.
I don't think that
part
would
of
be real practical, actually.
It may not be practical, but it's also not practical to ask for a 6 month variance to put a storage container and go well beyond that.
I think we have passed the point of an economy situation. Like you just said, supplies are now readily available. We had to get the variance, hopefully, and then we can design the building and move forward. So we're not dealing with product delay as much as we have been in the past. Now it's just wrap up the house and so on. But is the building where the garage is going is also going to store the stuff that can't be left outside, and that'll go in that shipping container.
I guess my concern is that if you don't already have an architect on board.
I said earlier that we have a designer for the garage.
Okay, so you could literally be 3 weeks to a month away from even having a builder permit in hand.
Well, I don't know how long it takes to design
It could be
something, but I mean, that we're in that stage.
a month pretty easily to.
It's possible. I can't speak for, something that I don't do.
Right, I'm very concerned that we are kicking the can down the road again for a storage container that, as was brought up and is pretty relative out there, that you don't need necessarily on a residential construction site, because.
Well, I think
Deliver
I invite
materials.
you over to just get a full understanding what I'm experiencing.
I've been there and I've done it, and I've had lumber on a yard covered with a tarp, and I've had materials covered with a
Well,
tarp.
but I invite you over and you can see what's in that container. It's things that can't be outside. Vanities, furniture are in there because there is no room in that house. When you move something in one direction, you got to move something else in another direction. So we've moved it out into that container as a temporary place to store it. And
But I agree with the temporary, but the temporary has expanded beyond a 6 month to a
COVID
2-year.
construction. We're in a different
2019.
time now.
We're in 2023.
We're in a different
I
time.
completely agree, but I can't keep going back to somebody saying something that was,
I think
2 or
we're
3 years
talking
ago.
about an end
we're
date.
talking about a forward date.
We're talking about an end date.
And I don't see why a vanity can't be stored in a mini storage
Do you
facility.
have,
Until one's brought.
okay.
You load it, you bring it to site, you install it in place until such time.
It sounds pretty simple, doesn't it?
Been there, done it, been there and
Come
done
and-
it
come and take
over
a
and
look.
over again.
Come and take a look.
It's irrelevant to look at it. It's how the system operates is you buy it, you bring it to site, you put it in place. If there's a delay, A, you don't buy it that quick, or B, you buy it and store it.
Let me just say something. I have a convection oven. It took 9 months to get it,
Okay,
just delivered. That's just an example.
and I agree, but my question on record is, you are 2 years past this variance. My concern to staff is, why hasn't this bond been pulled? Why hasn't this been a topic of discussion in the zoning board of appeals meeting, that this is a variance violation and this could have been dealt with 18 months ago? And then it would have been resolved 18 months ago, or we wouldn't be here trying to kick this can down the road.
We're not kicking
I
any
completely-
cans down the road. I'm sorry.
Okay, have you paid the $500 security deposit as a fine?
I couldn't.
We have that on,
Okay.
yes, yep, we have.
Then my assumption is tomorrow's opening of business day, that you guys will produce a $500 penalty.
Depending on this decision tonight, that's one option.
Well, it's already
Yes.
it's already past due. So this board's not changing what has been past due for the past 18 months. We can react to this today and go forward, but are you asking the board to grant something retroactive 18 months?
I would say since it wasn't discussion with the applicant, and again, that's on me for not doing that. I'd want to have that before I at a minimum say, hey, give it a week, and if it's not gone, then we're doing the 500, something like that. Is how
And I guess my concern is, so we change it from 500 to 5,000. It doesn't change the situation. We
can use
continue to
that.
Have the same situation.
Will we use that funds to either fine or again, use that funds to pay for the removal of the shipping container? Was the idea behind this?
Right.
I want to ask if it's okay, because we're in public hearing, Mr. Alberts, Mr. Burrows, if we put a fence around this is what we really, and enforce it, which is Mr. Goring said he will. If we said, okay, by February 9th, 2024, that shipping container is out of there. That's 6 months. It gives them 6 months to do the project, to, get all the permits, get the drawings, get it built. And we'll put, probably a higher bond on it. Are you comfortable with that? And that staff says, yeah, we're going to recognize this, and Mr. Goring agrees with it. Is that bring you any more comfort? I mean, we're trying to find a compromise here, so.
Sure. I have a couple of questions about what you said. And the other thing too is, I believe Harold, you said that the shipping container was put there to build a garage. But it sounds like it's been working on the interior house. Nothing's even been started on the garage. So that is a little confusing.
Right.
Second is, in 6 months, so you said February 8th of
Yeah.
24. Does that mean everything's done? Like the shipping container's gone, the shed's gone, and the carriage house is built, or what is it?
Well, even, I think that's a good question. And I think the answer would be the shipping container is the big issue here, but that's gone. So the construction may not be done. We're hopeful that it is. But if it's not, then materials are gonna have to be stored elsewhere because the shipping container has to go.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would, and I don't know what you guys are able to do or not, but I would like to see definitely maybe earlier date, but the shipping container be gone. Because my fear is this will get stretched out again, and all of a sudden in February, it'll be moved, and then construction hasn't even started yet. I'd like to, if possible.
Well, we want to have some incentive in there,
Agreed.
which is the bond.
Sure, and have maybe a bond set up for, I don't know if it's possible to do a bond for, hey, in 3 months or 4 months, whatever, the shipping containers out, that's one bond. Another one is for the start / completion of the carriage house / bond.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah,
Well, and at this point, the shipping container is gone. We don't, nobody cares when the garage starts, right?
Right.
Because it might not start for
The issue we understand is the shipping container.
right, because the shed has to come down in order to build the garage.
Right.
Where does the stuff in the shed go? Right, that's gotta be somewhere, like you said, you gotta store material somewhere, but usually it's outside or under a tarp. Or you got a temporary pod that has a time limit.
You see the dominoes here, right, Mr. Goring, and the issue. In 6 months, though, can you feel you could get the shipping container out? Do you think you can complete the project?
We're in a whole different economy now. These guys are.
I know, but my question is, can you commit to? complete in 6 months?
Absolutely,
Okay, then
absolutely.
I think the resolution we're going to is that the project will be completed and the shipping container will be removed within 6 months, which is February 8th of 2024.
Not a problem with that.
If that makes everybody happy, that makes sense.
Actually, we're hoping that it'll be sooner because the shipping container is being sent to the UP and they're waiting for it. So it's causing delays.
You'd make everybody happy if that went to the
Yeah,
UP.
I don't want it there either. But once we get started on the garage, then we're going to rough it in as fast as we can. Then everything can be moved into that roughed in area.
Right.
So that's the plan.
Get a roof on it, get it in the dry.
Yeah, I don't want any shipping container. I'm going to move it over to the neighbor's yard. All right, thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, does anybody want to make a motion?
I moved to close public hearing.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, board members, any comments?
Yeah, I mean, we all share the neighbors' concerns. But we also never like to deny the right of somebody to do something with their property as long as they're following the ordinances. And I think we can come up with a compromise here that's amenable to everyone. So I would make a motion that we approve the variance based on the findings and the exceptional conditions that staff has already listed, with 5 conditions. And the first conditions is, as stated, all outdoor lighting adheres to Cascade Township ordinance standards, that the accessory building not be used for dwelling or home occupation. 3, that the rear setback is set to 40 feet. 4, there's removal of the storage container and completion of the garage within 6 months or by February 8th, 2024. And that all permits are in place as required before starting. And you're familiar with getting building permits, but that's just a standard action that we all have to go through. So those.
One question, the bond request.
Oh, I'm sorry. And number six is that the repercussions or the penalty for not meeting the 6 month is a $5,000 bond you put in place, which is obviously the applicant would get back, given that they meet the conditions.
Hmm.
I think I forgot about that.
Any amendments?
Did did I hear you by saying the garage should be completed in 6 months or the container needs to be?
I think the concern is the container.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me go back to saying that the container needs to be removed within 6 months
Thank you.
for the $5,000 bond, yeah. And I'm sure the neighbors will let us know if there's other issues, but we want to make everybody happy. We want you to do your project, but I understand the neighbors' frustrations after all these years.
Certainly. I understand.
And I see that you want to be a good neighbor, which is also a good thing. That's my motion.
Valerie, any amendments to that?
No, I think you,
Lou?
So there's, I'm sorry, 6 conditions. Did you get them all,
yes.
Madison? Okay.
Okay,
I'll support that.
moved and supported. All in favor, say aye.
All right.
Aye. Any opposed? None opposed. Okay,
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Gordon.
thank you. Okay. Any,
We're good.
yes. Any old business? Any old business?
Old business? Oh, you're asking each other.
Do you have any, Madison?
Old, new.
One thing I wanted to mention, and I brought this up at the, planning commission last night. Madison helped with this property over on Grand River Avenue. That was really quite unsightly near Peace Park. And it's part of that, sand pit operation they have over there. And it's just become a junkyard and.
The one with all the tractors and everything
Oh, yeah, the steam tractor sitting up front.
I ride by it a lot.
and the buckets and the signs.
They've done a lot to clean it up. Plus it's grown over. I mean, it's harder to see the junk now, which is.
Until fall.
Yeah, it'll all reappear. Anyway, I appreciate Madison pursuing that.
Yeah, no problem.
Any new business?
Move to adjourn?
Support.
Moved and supported. All in favor, say aye. Aye.